Hello, everyone. I'm Floyd Getchell, and welcome to the Unspoken Narrative. Today, we're going to talk about the cause and effect history of assault rifles. And the reason we're going to discuss it in this manner is there are a lot of steps that are left out in the development of early assault rifles, and there's a lot of confusion, and we're going to cut through a lot of that. And every, everybody knows, well, most everybody knows, that the Germans developed the initial assault rifle with the Sturmgewehr 44 and it was there was a slow development process. Part of the reason there was a slow development process, or relatively slow, is because they were trying to hide it from Adolf Hitler. But there's a lead up. There were some developments earlier. We come out of World War One, and everybody, most of the militaries that were involved, knew that there needed to be they needed submachine guns. The only country that really ran with this was the United States. They came up with the Thompson. Colonel Thompson makes the Thompson submachine gun, which was actually made famous by gangsters in the 1920s. The but the Thompson submachine gun requires a lot of complex machining. It's considered any those early machine guns that require a lot of milling work and lathe work are considered Generation 1 submachine guns. You get into World War II, right before World War II, you have submachine gun development go into what's called Generation 2. And those are submachine guns that are stamped. So anyway, the impetus to create assault rifles, everybody thinks it's this, oh, duh, we just need something. And it wasn't like that at all. What happens, you have Hitler stuck in World War One. He was this great hero from World War One in his own mind. They found that the Iron Cross he was awarded is actually all fake. It was actually done by this officer that was in his unit, and when he is in prison for the beer hall pooch that uh, he was sent to jail for, and he's writing his little Mein Kampf fake biography, he writes what the officer did and basically awards himself the medal for this incident. That so anyway, he's stuck in World War One, and so he thinks all his soldiers need full house Mauser rifle. He doesn't think they need an intermediate cartridge. Well, the Russians have the PPD and the PPSH, and Ian McCullum on Forgotten Weapons does an outstanding job covering both of these. But one of the things that a lot of people don't know about those, the Russians basically took the 30 Mauser cartridge and made it spicy. And when they created the 7.62 Tokarev round, it's the same dimensions and everything, but it's got a bit more powder in it. Comes out of the PPSH 400 feet per second faster. May not sound like a lot until you start doing the math on how much faster, or excuse me, on the foot pounds of energy that creates. It's quite impressive, and I'm gonna throw the digits up here as I'm talking over it, and so you can actually see how much. And I'll just do at 100 yards. The other thing about the PPSH that's really fascinating, had a 71 round drum, as everybody knows, and yes, they were hand fitted to each gun. I actually had two captured PPSHs when I was in Iraq, and hand fitting the drums is a pain in the rear. I can never find ammo for them to shoot them, which really bummed me out because I was just dying to shoot those things over there. But anyway, just like this, everybody waltzes into the World War II with Gen 2 stamp fitted. This is Sten gun. It's all demilled, so ATF calm the hell down. Can't turn it into a machine gun. It's all welded up, so I can't take it apart and put in full auto parts. doesn't even have an ejector cut in it, so it's never going to be a machine gun. So anyway, and the bolt here has a firing pin ground out of it, and that means since it's a fixed firing pin cut into it, this bolt can never be made into a machine gun. So ATF, calm down. I know you guys don't know what you're doing when it comes to talking to guns, but that means it can't be made into a machine gun. So just relax. So anyway, it's a toy for my kid. I got it for Christmas. So anyway, this is a British Sten Mark II toy. It's all demilled. But anyway, so everybody goes into World War II with a Mark II, and then the PPSH is a stamped, and I apologize for not having a cool representative piece, but like I said, you can check out Ian's McCallum at Forgotten Weapons, and he has a really good deal on it. The 7.62 Tokarev round is coming out of their PPSH at 400 feet per second faster, and so it's hitting a lot harder. Germans invade Russia, and you see lots and lots of pictures of the Germans picking up PPSH submachine guns because that thing is hitting hard. And they're relaying that back because there was a lot of really good interplay between what the Germans were experiencing in the field and what their engineers, they were relaying that information back and forth between the frontline soldiers and the engineers and the weapons development people back in the rear. So there's a lot of handoff of information between the two, which is outstanding. So engineers are at Mauser, Henfeld, and Steyr, and Walther too. Walther was involved in the development of and there's some actual examples of the MP42W in early assault rifle development. So anyway, that is the cause and effect. The PPSH actually provided the impetus to create that. So the Germans, being great mathematicians, they actually take the 9mm round, which is their submachine gun round, and the 8mm Mauser, their battle rifle round, and just do math. And if you look at the math of the 8mm Kurz, which is German for short round, which was the original assault rifle round, it's a math game, and I'll throw that up there to show you. And you can look at that, and you can clearly see it's a simple math problem. They basically just took the 9mm round and the 8mm Mauser round and did an average, and they came up with the 8mm short round. The other thing that is critical, that for somehow the United States failed epically to bring into the development of the United States in our development of our own assault rifle, which is a misnomer when you talk about the AR-15 M16 development, is the taper of the case wall. 8mm Kurz has a taper of the case wall. AK as a 47 round has a taper of the case wall. The United States in 5.56 does not have a taper of the case wall, and that is why M16 rounds, or M16s and AR-15s, jam. So anyway, we come forward and we have, so the PPSH is the development or the impetus for it. Then we fast forward to the U.S. develops, comes out of World War II, and the U.S. was super happy with the M1 Garand, but then they wanted something that fired more. And the other thing as well, the U.S. didn't experience human wave attacks like the Germans did on the Eastern Front. And that was something that also inspired the Germans. Needed machine guns, but they also needed individuals with a rifle that was capable of firing full auto for those Russian human wave attacks, because communists don't give a rip about human life. And that was something that the United States, post World War II, the United States goes into battle rifle development. And so the United States is developing battle rifles, and so that's where the M14 comes from. But then almost immediately, as a big surprise, the United States gets involved in the Korean War. And what does the United States run into in the Korean War? The PPSH. Oh my goodness. So the United States basically fights the Korean War with everything left over from World War II. They go in there. We have the M1 carbine right at the end of World War II became the M2 carbine. It has a select fire lever on it now, so it can go full auto too. They also create 30-round magazines for it. So the M1 carbine round, 30 carbine, is basically just a oversized pistol round. It's not. It really is. It's not an intermediate cartridge. And that's the thing about, I'll get into it now. Assault rifle has it's a carbine length, which means the barrel is well, the whole rifle's under 40 inches, but the carbine barrel's under 20 inches. It has a magazine capacity of over 20 rounds, and it's capable of fires an intermediate cartridge, and it's capable of firing semi or fully automatic. All right. So those are the features of an assault rifle. Okay. So every time some idiot on the news says they had an assault rifle, you need to go, well, was it a machine gun? Well, if it wasn't a machine gun, it's not an assault rifle. Now, I'm going to make a statement here, and it might be getting into the weeds, but it is really important because one of the AR-15s don't shoot. It's, I try to get through this so it's in legalese, so it's easy to explain if I can. AR-15s don't shoot an intermediate cartridge. 223, which is the foundation piece or foundation cartridge of 5.56, which AR-15s and M16s shoot. Yes, it is the same cartridge in an external dimension. 5.56 brass has a thicker case wall to withstand higher pressures. Okay. Yes, you can shoot 223 and 5.56 in the same cartridge. All right. It is not an intermediate cartridge. It is a small game cartridge. Therefore, M16s and AR-15s are not assault rifles because they don't shoot an intermediate cartridge. Okay? Now, we're going to go to Vietnam, where the M16 was introduced, and one of the huge complaints is that it wouldn't knock down people. Now, knockdown power is one of those things people in the firearms industry argue about. There's no such thing as knockdown power. And I agree, there is no such thing as knockdown power. But there is such thing as kinetic energy. A cartridge will develop so many, and this is something you can actually, it's one of Newton's laws of physics. Is so much inertial mass, a bullet traveling so fast will develop so many foot-pounds of energy. And 5.56, with its really light bullet, because it's a small game cartridge, doesn't develop a lot of foot-pounds of energy because it's a little. AR-15s, contrary to all this BS propaganda you hear, was never designed to kill anybody. It was designed to wound people. We were getting ready to fight World War III against the Russians, all right? back to the Korean War, mass wave attacks coming at us. The U.S. is developing a battle rifle. We had to go fight Korea. We had to fight against the Chinese and the North Koreans. They're armed with their version of the PPSH submachine gun. And that's the first time the United States dealt with these we don't care about human mass wave attacks from the commies. And so we needed a bullet hose to spray these guys down. That means you need a lot of ammunition. That means you need a lot of lightweight ammunition so your guys can carry a whole bunch of lightweight ammunition. And that's where the M16 came from just a few years later, because the mathematicians at the time got into the Pentagon and they say we need a lightweight bullet to put in a lightweight bullet hose so we can deal with these mass wave commie attacks. And that's where the M16 came from, right? AR-15 and then the M16. I actually had who was it? I can't remember if it was General Dynamics or something else receiver when I was in the Army that actually said AR-15 on it, okay? But beside the point, and that doesn't mean they're interchangeable, because you got to have a sear hole drilled in there and it makes it a machine gun. And yes, they are restricted. You can't just go and buy one. They are very expensive. The last time I looked, M16 was $25,000. You buy it, it's controlled. There are a limited number of those available because 1986, I think, you can't make any more of them. So they're on a limited, there are a limited number of them available in the United States. And so they keep going up and up and up in value. The funniest thing, anytime you put a restriction on something like that, it creates a black market for them. It's the dumbest thing in the world. They just need to deregulate that stuff. It doesn't mean and so you have like the big shootout with the two idiots with machine guns in LA. All those were illegal. They had converted them themselves, not watching, there was no internet really at the time, but there were videotapes that were available on how to convert stuff like that, and they're just sold for entertainment value. Or there are a lot of people that are afraid, we're still worried about getting invaded. I remember growing up as a kid, we were worried about getting invaded by the Russians. And so there were all this stuff that was available on how to convert whatever you had into a fully auto weapon. And it was the idea that if the Russians invade, we can convert our stuff and go fight the Russians. If I'm retired from the Army, and we'll get into that in my series, The War Stories. If you know anything, untrained person with a fully automatic weapon is just a waste of ammunition. So don't convert your weapons. One, it's illegal. It's felony. You get to go to jail for a long time. The other thing is you don't, it's just a waste of ammo if you're engaged and you don't have any training. Anyway, so the United States gets on to, this is a PTR 91. It's a Heckler & Koch variant, and this is a delay roller lock, and it's a battle rifle. It shoots 7.62 by 51, not 7.62 Russian, 7.62 by 51, which is a NATO cartridge. This is what the United States forced everybody to go to in the 50s, and this is the M14 shot the same thing in 1958, and we made everybody else go to it. And this is what the Germans adopted after they got done playing with their version of the FAL, which they called the G1, I think. And that's a battle rifle. And that's the originals. I don't know if the Germans' issue rifle was capable of full auto fire. Those I fired full auto G3, which was what the Germans called that when I was in the Rangers, and those are a handful. Anyway, so the Americans are stuck with this battle rifle idea coming out of World War II. And then they get into Korea and they went, okay, the commies don't care about human life, and they just throw massive waves of people. And so then that's where the AR-15, M16 came from. But then the Russians got into the assault rifle, and this is an AK-47, the semi-auto only version, civilian version, and it's in 7.62 by 39, which is a shortened cartridge, and I'll show the data on it and show a picture of the cartridge. And what it does is it took what the Germans had done with the 8mm short tapered cartridge. Everything in the Russian arsenal was 30 caliber at the time, and so they just made a 30 caliber assault rifle. And there are a lot of influences. Mikhail Kalashnikov created that. He was a tank sergeant, and he had been working on submachine guns. He had been wounded. He fought against the Germans on the Eastern Front. He was a tank driver, and he was also a machinist, and he had been wounded. And when he was recovering from his wounds, he was screwing around in the machine shop, and he built a submachine gun. And then he somehow he must have got a hold of a captured rifle or something like that. But everybody's like, oh, he was directly influenced by the Stromgewehrs. Actually, it would have been MP42 at that time, or 43. But there is actually, the trigger group looks more like an M1 Garand, and also it has a rotating bolt, which the MP42s have a dropping block locking mechanism like an FAL, and so it's completely different. So your cause and effects are different, and then the cause and effect of why the Americans kind of stutter step through to the development of the AR-15 that went to a battle rifle with the M14, and then there were a lot of technological issues with the M14 too. Basically, Springfield Armory, who created the M14, couldn't actually make it. If you look into the history of it, TRW, which doesn't have anything to do with weapons manufacturing, they actually made products for, they're mostly known in the auto industry and the aviation industry. They had to bring that technology in to actually create the M14. Everybody just thinks the M14 is the logical offshoot of the M1 Garand because they are so close to each other, but they're not. They basically started all over and came up with the same thing. Basically, one of my sons is a full-time gunsmith, and he says the the M14 are very, very temperamental. And so anyway, it's actually the influence of the PPSH and that spicy Tokarev round that knocked the shit out of the Germans on the Eastern Front in Russia, and then again when it reappeared in Korea, that affected the development of weapons both in Germany, which created the STG-44, the Stromgewehr, and then affected the US weapons development after the Korean War, that made both countries realize that communists that were fighting, the Germans were fighting then, and then after the Korean War, the US suspected we were going to be fighting in Central Europe, in Germany, when we assumed the Russians and the rest of the Warsaw Pact invaded, that affected development of assault rifles. And so that's the cause and effect history of assault rifle development in recent history. I hope you enjoyed what I presented, and definitely check out Ian McKellum over on Forgotten Weapons to fill in the blank spaces. And I'm sorry I didn't have cool representative pieces like he did, but hey, I'm on a limited budget here and I don't have as many cool friends as he does. You guys take care and you have a great day.